Hello, everybody. It's Janet DeBenedetto with Ignite Your Life. And I'm so excited tonight. I have a new friend and her daughter on. Her name is Stacey Goodrich and her daughter, Olivia. Stacey is a mental strength training coach, and her daughter, Olivia, is a gymnast, is an elite gymnast. So I wanted to welcome them, and we're going to talk a little bit about what Stacey does and what Olivia does. So welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for agreeing to come on. How's everything?
I think we're doing well. So far, so good.
You're
Good.
doing
Yeah.
well?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're excited.
I'm excited for you guys. So, tell me about where you guys live. I want the audience to get to know you a little bit, where you live, what you do. Introduce yourselves both a little bit.
Well, we are from Minnesota, and I am a mental strength coach. And Olivia here is my daughter, and she's a Division I gymnast at Ball State University. And I've been doing mental strength coaching for about 20 years. And when Olivia was 9, she came home from practice one day and couldn't do her back walk over the beam. And so I started working with her on the mental side. And since then, I've been working with lots of athletes every week, from the professional level on down to any youth sport as well. And so we're just excited to be here. And Olivia, want to say a little bit about?
Like she said, I'm a gymnast at Ball State University in Indiana. I've been doing gymnastics since I was 4. I'm now a junior in college. We just finished our season this year, and so I have one more season left.
That's amazing. Look at her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. I love the fact that, first of all, that you started at 4 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mom, was it you that got her into it? Olivia, did you express some interest?
It was mainly her putting me in, but I know I was flipping over the couch when I was younger. I don't know when that started, but
Well, it was interesting because I put her in I couldn't wait for her to be potty trained because I didn't want to go in class with her. She's the youngest of 4 kids, and so I had to. They would take them into class, but they had to be potty trained. So I think you were potty trained at like 2 years and 4 months, and she went into class, and I had no idea what we were getting involved in. By the time she was in kindergarten, she was training 9 hours a week.
Wow.
So at 5 years
9 hours a
old,
week, like kindergarten?
yeah. So 3 hours a day, 3 days a week in kindergarten. So she was on the really fast track as far as moving up and doing well, and that's why she's at Division I, because she did what she had to do. But it was a really kind of a lot of work, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dedication, right? And perseverance. Like did you, Olivia, at that point, did you know, like, I'm going to be doing this? Like, this is like at that young of an age, like, what do you remember what was going on in your mind?
It didn't hit until I was probably like 10 or 11 when I knew I was probably going to hopefully do it in college. That was my goal at that age. But before that, it was just like I would do what I was told, and I guess it got me that far, but I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Did you wow, that's awesome. Did you feel like you enjoyed it at that moment? Was there any time, do you remember any moments in time where you thought like this is too much, or did you always enjoy it? Did you feel you wanted to keep moving forward? Like, give me a little bit about what was going on in your head.
I'd say when I was 10 and 11 was probably the hardest time, because that's when it got hard and that's when it got so real. I knew I could be successful, but I knew it was going to get harder as I went. So yeah, there was a lot of times where I wanted to stop, but I knew if I kept going, I was going to make it far. So that's kind of what kept me going, but
Mhm.
it was hard.
Was there ever a time where you didn't enjoy it?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Mm,
a lot of the
mm.
time,
Okay.
but worth it.
Worth it.
Yeah.
So, Stacey, you said at 9 you started working with her mentally. Like, so, Olivia, can you tell me what that was like? Like, did you? So, I want to hear a little bit. Like, Mom, were you the one that said, "I think you need my coaching," and then Olivia, were you like receptive? Like, give me a little bit about how that went down. I want to hear that.
I feel like at first she didn't really know what was going on, but she also saw that it wasn't helping. Like whatever she was saying wasn't helping me. I wasn't getting better mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And then she realized that I needed something better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, moms of gymnasts tend to say all the wrong things, and we don't know it. And we it's one of those things where if you just say, when they come home and they can't do something, we just say, you got it, don't worry about it, get out of your head and just do it. And it doesn't work because it's not a solution for how to manage their situation. It's just a thought. And so when she first was struggling at 9, she came home and she said, Mom, Sarah asked me to do my back walk over on the high beam and I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to be getting my master's and I happened to be, connected with some of these techniques because I said, Livy, don't worry about it. You got it. And she was like, that is not going to work. And so I started basically that day with the 3 strategies, I call them, that I teach on the first session for every single person I see. And it worked. And it connected her mind to her body and she could do what she needed to do. And a couple of years later, her coaches approached me and said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just working with her on the mental side. And they then hired me at her gym. And I would go in every couple of weeks and talk to the girls. And they required me to get really good really fast because they were mentally, gymnastics is a mentally exhausting sport. And they're very young when they start. And they have coaches that require a lot of them very young. And so it can be very, it's not what happens to us that matters. It's our perception of it that controls our behavior. And so if her coach said, Olivia, that was a terrible bar routine, she could perceive it as, okay, it was a terrible bar routine, no big deal. But she could also perceive it as I'm terrible at bars and I'll never be good at bars and I'm bad and I can't do it. And so what happens is those thoughts get grooved in our neurology and we behave according to those ideas. And so that's why a lot of these sports, when kids are really young, they can believe things about themselves that aren't true, that they can, that's where parents are seeing the lack of confidence or the balking or the different struggles that they have. That's kind of the symptom of the problem. And so we as moms are messing up our kids all day long. And I tell people it's okay. We're all doing the best we can. But I had to learn the hard way what not to say to her, what to say to her. But I think I did pretty good.
Yeah, it took a while, but.
Do you think, Olivia, do you feel like her strategies have really made a difference for you? Tell me a little bit about your experience with it.
I don't really remember the first few times. I was so young that I don't remember much of that, but I know as I got older, it started making more sense. She wouldn't even have to tell me at that point. I didn't really like talking about it still, but I knew what she would say to me, so I would tell myself, okay, what would my mom say? And that would help me. So we didn't have to talk too much about it. We didn't have very many sessions after the first few times, but
can I say this story when you were in college and you called me, freshman?
Yeah, what you told Alex today?
Maybe.
Yeah.
So Olivia was a freshman in college and she called me and she said, Mom, I can't do my series. And her series is a back handspring back layout on the beam. And I said the mom thing and I said, Olivia, you've been doing your series since you were 11. And she's like, that is not helpful. And I said, what's going on? And she said, my shoulders don't work right. My back doesn't work right. They're trying to teach me a new series. I said, you're never going to learn a new series. She's like, oh my gosh. And basically what I said to her is, Olivia, you just have your mind in your A circle instead of your body. Put your body back in your A circle. Give your mind a job to support your body. Practice that where you're comfortable and do it that way. And that's all she needed. She was fine. And you've competed beam and your series every single meet since you started. Right?
This year, beam every meet. Last year, I think so. Freshman year was on and off though.
Yeah. So she, and basically, you know, we can get our mind in our way. And if we don't give our mind a job to do, it'll create its own job and it won't be helpful. But understanding what job to give your mind, feeling your way through your skills, seeing your way through them, talking your way through them, thinking your way through them. We can all learn from that. If we can give our mind a job to do, then it's not going to get in our way as much.
Okay. So I heard you mention A circle, and you and I had talked about that a little bit when we first chatted. So I want the audience to understand that the technique that you use. So could you explain a little bit about, you know, some of the techniques that you use?
Yes, I teach a technique called A circle. And basically what happens is when our mind is in our way, we're unaware of what's going on. And we are unaware that we have any control over those thoughts and that fear or doubt or different energy that can affect us. And so A circle is a technique that gives the ability to be aware of what in the past was happening unconsciously or what was happening to me. And so everybody has what I call an A circle, a B circle, and a C circle. And there's no right or wrong way with how it's set up. It's a way for us to understand what's controlling us or what's running the show for us in any given situation. So whoever or whatever is in your A circle is who or what is making decisions for you, or who or what is running the show for you in that situation. B circle are people or things that support you to make a decision, or they can influence your decisions, but they're not making it for you. And C circle is everything else outside of that, or everything else that doesn't matter. Now we can have lots of things in our A circle. We can have people. Athletes can have their parents in their A circle. They can have coaches in their A circle. Maybe their teammates can be in there affecting them a certain way. We can also have thoughts in our A circle. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to upset my coach. I don't want to do it wrong. Those thoughts can be in our A circle. And we can also have energy, like fear or anxiety or doubt or confidence. We can have confidence in our A circle. So for athletes, when I teach the strategy, it gives them the ability to be aware of what in the past was controlling them or kicking them out of their ability to do what they know they can do.
Wow.
What do you have in your A circle?
I think growing up, I definitely had my coaches, maybe my teammates sometimes, but sometimes that was a good thing. I would use my teammates as a good thing, like motivation. My coaches would get in my A circle sometimes, so I've learned that I don't need them in my A circle and that I can do it on my own, and I don't need their coaching as much anymore. But that was something I had to learn.
Yeah, athletes, it's not that the coaches intend to be in athletes' A circle in a negative way. Coaches just want their kids to do well. They know that they can do it. Sometimes they get frustrated. You know, if a coach says to a gymnast, if you don't do your series 5 times right now, you're not going to compete tomorrow. They want them to do their series, and the athlete wants to do their series. But if the athlete has that in her A circle and it's affecting her in a negative way, then it's going to be difficult for her to focus on what she needs to do.
So basically you're saying, like, if the coach gives that kind of negative feedback, sort of, right? Or definitely, not sort of, definitely gives a negative feedback, right? then all of a sudden, if that's in your A circle, that could mess with your head even more. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mm.
So in that situation, if I'm Livy's coach and I say, Olivia, get up on a high beam and do your series 5 times. If Olivia sees that as, oh my gosh, my coach is going to be upset, or what if I can't do it, or what if it's not perfect, then that's in her A circle, and that is controlling her in that situation. And so when I teach it, I'll ask them, in that situation, what could you have had in your A circle? Oh, I could have been focusing on my skill. I could have been thinking about what I needed to do. Instead of having that in their A circle, they can kick that out and then focus on what they need to do in the moment.
That
So
makes
having an A circle. So for you, Janet, what would you say is in your A circle some of the time?
Yeah, it's a lot of times it's my kids or my business partner. It used to be my husband, but not anymore. And so
He could still be in there.
I guess he because he's a soon to be ex. So it's like I guess he is still kind of in there somehow because I made decisions on selling my house and moving because of him being in the A circle at that point. So there was decisions that obviously are in my world in this moment that he is, and that the kids are, because I want what's in their best interest. So, but I'm learning to put myself in my A circle because for so many years as a mom and a wife and all those other things, I was probably in the C circle for myself. And I always put myself on the back burner. So now just learning this technique, it's like, wow, the times that I feel guilty about having myself in the A circle is when I need to be in my own A circle the most.
Right.
I started thinking about that when you explained it to me.
Well, and I think as mothers, you and I both know moms that jump in their kids' A circle all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, what's in our A circle is what's making decisions for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we can be in our kids' A circle, or we can jump in there a lot.
What's the difference? Explain the difference.
Well, we like, if I tell Olivia what to do, I'm jumping in her A circle.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
So if I say, Olivia, you need to do your back walk over the beam. Now I'm in her A circle. And so that may or may not be helpful for her.
It might even make it worse, right?
Yes. And then if I could, then maybe I'm adding pressure to her A circle that I'm not trying to, but I am by putting, parents are putting pressure on their kids without them even knowing it. And we're not intending to, but it's how they perceive it.
Yeah.
And mothers too, we can have our kids in our A circle and we're not even in there. Right? So it's interesting, I think, for all of us to be aware that you have an A circle. And whatever's in your A circle is making decisions for you in that situation. But it doesn't have to be a certain way. If you've got anxiety in your A circle, anxiety typically starts to get in our A circle because it wants us to pay attention. It wants us to be aware of what's going on. But over time, it can build on itself and kick us out of our ability to focus on what we want to do or what we can do. So
if the anxiety is in your A circle, then you're not in your A circle. Is that correct?
Most of the time, that's exactly how it feels to people. They're not in control. And so once they know they have an A circle, it's not necessarily about kicking it out, but it's about acknowledging it. Oh, I have anxiety in my A circle. Okay. Now what do I need to do? What can I do? Maybe I just need to think about what it needs. Maybe I just need to be in my own A circle with it. So I can just do what I need to do in the moment. And once you acknowledge it, it's not so powerful. You're going to take your power back over something that in the past would have kicked you out of your A circle and controlled you in your life.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And like you were saying before too, so your kids could be in your A circle, but you're not in their A circle, and you could be in their C circle, right?
Definitely.
Like you could be, like we could be in their C circle, but they're in our A circle. And we're like, wait a minute, I'm not even a thought. Like you can sense, right? Olivia's laughing because she knows.
Yeah.
Because it's like, right? If as a mom, there's times like you're like, you give, and you think that because they're in your A circle, you're making all the decisions right from them being in your A circle, but you're not in theirs. And then they're like, move out. Like you're in my face, or right? Is that?
I think that that's a really common thing. We tend to have our kids in our A circle, and then when they don't appreciate it, we're wondering why. When they didn't ask us to have them in their A circle, right? We'll be like, I've been doing all this for you my whole life, and you don't even care. And they're like, what? I didn't ask you to do that.
And then we guilt trip them, and then they feel like,
yeah,
they don't feel good.
And we know how that goes.
And it's like this whole thing, right?
Exactly. But knowing you have an A circle gives you the ability to work with it, be in your own A circle with your kids, kick them out at times. Obviously, they're important to us. So it's not that we don't need to consider them all the time, but sometimes if we're making our decisions based on what we think they need or they want, that may not be what they even want from us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have me in your A circle, do you?
Not really. Sometimes.
Yeah, I think.
What does that feel like? Yeah, you said when you need her, right?
Oh, and that's what's great about teaching children A circle, because once you teach a child A circle, they don't even have to necessarily understand it for them to. I taught a 5-year-old A circle, and his mother, and in the session, it was a 15-minute session because he was 5, and he was all over her, like on the couch and everything, and she's like, I don't know if he's getting it. And I said, just pay attention. I think he is. And sure enough, he went on the playground, and he didn't have a care in the world. If kids were like, before that, he was so concerned that the kids didn't like him or they didn't want to play with him on the playground. And now he was in his own A circle. He was doing his own thing. He was loving, the time, and he didn't worry about all the other kids and what they were thinking and how he wasn't necessarily playing with them. It didn't matter. He was in charge of what was in his A circle, and it just changed everything for him.
At 5.
At 5.
It's because, we don't give kids enough credit that they're little sponges, right? They can feel and sense everything. So if you just pay that little bit of attention and you give them a little nugget that they can latch onto, and they can take
it's something empowering.
It's empowering.
Right? When you know you have an A circle, you can communicate what you need because you know you have an A circle. Athletes need to be able to communicate. If they're hurting, if they're injured, if they need to practice. I always tell them, practice being in your own A circle and practice communicating what you need to the people that are comfortable for you to do that with. And then they can do that then over time. My favorite story about Olivia was when she was a freshman in college. She went to the doctor and she said, Mom, I went to the doctor. I said, okay. And she said, I'm tired all the time, which I thought that was funny because she's in college and she's training 20 hours a week.
Yeah, like you're not supposed to be tired, right?
Yeah. I said, well, of course you're tired. She goes, no, Mom, I'm really tired. So she said she went to the doctor. And the doctor said, well, maybe you can tell this.
Yeah, tell the story. I want to hear it, Olivia.
Well, she was asking me all these questions on like why I was tired or why I thought I was tired, and I was telling her my schedule. And sorry, she said, well, are you depressed? Is this the one you're talking about? Yeah. And I was like, no. And she kept asking me if I was depressed. And I was just like, why is she asking me if I'm depressed? Like, just because I'm tired doesn't mean I'm depressed. I was like, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't remember.
Well, and she said, Mom, she kept asking me if I was depressed or if I was anxious. And Olivia said, well, I might have thought every once in a while, I might be miss home or whatever.
Mhm.
And Olivia said, Mom, I just finally said, no, I'm not depressed. Can you just test my vitamin D? And I'm,
just because I was upset because they tend to blame everything on depression nowadays, and I feel like that's just what they tell everybody they have depression, and I didn't want to be told that I have depression. So
And you probably didn't want to be labeled, right?
yeah,
Because I
because
feel
I
like,
can control that. So I was like telling them I'm not depressed because I know I can control that. Maybe not all the time, but like I felt like I could. So
well,
you,
and really,
oh, go ahead.
and at the end of the day, what I was so proud of is that she communicated what she needed, even
Mm.
with a doctor, where at 18 years old, I would have been like, you think I'm depressed? I'm probably depressed. Okay. Do I need to be medicated? What do you think? You're the doctor. I would not have been able to be in my own A circle. I would not have been able to be clear on that with a doctor or somebody of authority like that.
Mhm.
And I was really proud of that, because A circle is a product. That example is a product of how A circle can be beneficial to people over time.
Mhm.
She just communicated what she needed, and she didn't need something different, and she was able to just take care of herself in that regard. And I think
Mhm.
that's just a great example of somebody being able to communicate what they need.
Yeah. And even if, let's say she even had a tiny bit of depression,
Mm-hmm.
she was able to control her mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? And tell herself, no, I'm not depressed, and I'm going to be okay. And maybe it's my vitamin levels, or maybe it's something else, or maybe I'm just overtired, and decided to communicate what she needed to be in her own A circle, right? And then she felt more empowered and in control.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's exactly the point. If somebody does have depression or anxiety, they need to be able to communicate that as well.
Mhm.
That's a part of it, where we need to, this work is about giving people the ability to have some strategies and tools to manage themselves better in situations, to keep their mind connected to their body, and to practice that over time. That's what gives them the ability to function through transitions, to still continue to uh, be their best and move into more of a success mentality. There's a lot of hope to you have some control over your A circle, even in a pandemic, or even in a hard situation, or even when you are depressed. If I have depression in my A circle, and I know I have an A circle, at least I can be in my own A circle with it. I can know that I do have some control over it. And and practicing that and giving yourself permission to not be perfect as you move through that, and practicing knowing that, can just be really empowering for people.
Yeah. Right. Because they feel as though they have a tool, number one, and then they know that they're going to put themselves first without feeling a feeling of not even so much what's the word I'm looking for, selfish, not feeling like they're being selfish.
Exactly. And what I tell people is, if you can put other people in your A circle, but even that alone, you're at choice. You're choosing. If I want to put my kids in my A circle before me, at least I'm still choosing that. I'm not a victim of it. I'm not, having to do it. I'm not like, wishing it were a different way. I'm choosing to have her in my A circle because I want that to be like that in that situation. If she says that, Mom, can I take your car? I'll put that in my A circle and allow it. And that's fine. Now that's still my choice, because I know how to manage my A circle. So I think that's what's so valuable too about it.
Yeah. Do you feel that, is there ever any resistance, like from any of the athletes towards the A circle, B circle? Like, where do you see a resistance from people and give me a couple of examples of how that goes?
That's a great question, because we have a lot of resources in our crap, you know, and sometimes people don't want to let go of the problem because there's still a lot of resources in the problem. So for instance, if I have an athlete who's kind of not wanting to talk about a problem or talk about a situation, they're feeling so bad about themselves about that problem that they may not want to be in their own A circle, because then they have to be accountable to that. So if they're worried about getting yelled at, and you may have an example, I'm not sure, but if they're worried about their coaches getting upset with them, sometimes they'll resist being in their own A circle, because then when the coaches are mad at them, they have to own that, instead of an excuse for me to not play good, you know, or an excuse to be not perfect. And so, but I'll talk to them about that. I'll say, I want you to want to be perfect. I want you to want to do your best, but I want you to be in control of that mentality instead of it controlling you. Because there's a lot of motivation in being perfectionist. There's a lot of motivation in not wanting to do it wrong. And so it's not that I want to take away all of the things that they've been using, even if they're a little bit negative, but putting them in control of the mentality gives them a lot of power to use it. It's like I had a belief that I'm not good enough. I still do. And I carried it around for 50 years. And then I went to this training and they said, write down something you don't want people to know about you. And I wrote down that I'm not good enough. And I knew it was going to be awful. You know, I knew I was going to have to talk about it. I knew people were going to be, I was going to have to explain it. There's like 200 people there. And it was all of that. It was really, really dramatic. But then I got home and I couldn't function. I didn't want to get out of bed. Everything was good enough now. They took the limiting belief away. But I had used that idea as motivation for a long time. There were a lot of resources in not being good enough. It got me to, you know, create my company. It got me to be able to take care of my 4 kids. You know, there's a lot of things that motivated me by trying to prove that I was good enough. So I had to coach myself through that and decide that I could use that idea as a way to motivate me if I needed it. But I also could be looking on the other side of that and say, okay, I am enough as well. How do I want to move into those directions as well? But I needed to be okay with using it in a way that worked best for me instead of just taking it away from me.
And, you know, something that I've learned, especially in my years of coaching and coaching experiences, there's a lot of times there's a payoff.
Yes.
It's a, you know, the negative connotation, there's a payoff to being right about not being good enough. Right. So that it could be a payoff of like I say this almost every show because it comes up every single time, because it's always a belief I have. It's some people would rather be right than happy. Like, would you rather be right than happy? But the rightness, like about being right, it could be your payoff is that you are motivated, or like you said, you push yourself to start your company because you wanted to prove that you are almost like trying to disprove that your belief of not being good enough, right? But then you could also go the other way and say, I'm going to prove myself right about not being good enough. And your payoff could be, you're not good enough. Like, you didn't start your company. You didn't do all these things. And then you live with regrets at the end. Like, here's the negative, like what I want to talk about is like the negative side of being right about the payoff of not having yourself in your A circle, of saying, okay, so I didn't do all those things and I put myself in the C circle, let's say, and I wanted to prove that I'm not good enough, because the payoff is now maybe I'll get sympathy. Maybe, oh, she tried and it just never worked out. Oh, poor her. And it sounds negative to do that, but maybe some people are programmed to being used to being a victim, and the payoff to them is like somebody paying attention and feeling sorry for themselves. And that's good enough for them. Like, they like that victimized payoff.
You're absolutely right. That's what sabotaging mentality is.
Exactly.
I had a friend one time and she had hip surgery, like 5 hip surgeries. And finally one day I go, what's the benefit to you having hip surgery? And she goes, oh, I get attention from my family. There's a lot of self-preserving needs in our issues.
Yeah.
You know, we get a lot of comfort, love, security, safety, you know, comfort in the things that are in our A circle in a negative way. So if I have fear in my A circle running the show, there are a lot of benefits to having fear in my A circle to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it protects them maybe from things that they don't want to do. And so you're right. And A circle it can be difficult because people don't necessarily know how to handle what they are now aware of that is in their A circle. And so it can be difficult for people to want to even go to that direction, especially people who are really victimized or they have a victim mentality. But it's a practicing strategy, and it can be very gentle at the same time.
Yeah, and it's just learning how to uncover or unpack, like I always say, those that you have those limiting beliefs and that you have those fears and then you have those doubts. And it's whether you want to choose to shift and turn it into an empowering belief as opposed to a disempowering belief.
Yes, and I teach a strategy called goal beyond the goal. And goal beyond the goal can be really helpful in aligning us with what we want, but one step at a time. So a goal, sometimes if I set a goal, there can be pressure on that goal. So everything, you know, if I want to lose 10 pounds and that's now my goal, well, as soon as I eat a cookie, I'm going to be like, oh, I messed that up. I'm just going to eat all of them, right? Because I just messed up my goal. But if it's a goal beyond the goal, then what do I need to do right now to move toward that goal? How do I want to, you know, if I want to have a cookie, that's fine. Now what? How do I want to move towards still being able to lose 10 pounds? And goal beyond the goal can be helpful in the idea of creating more hope and creating a new place to land, even if things don't go perfectly right now. I still have a goal that I want to achieve, you know, maybe doing a 5K or going Division I gymnastics. And then it's not so much about how it has to be along the way, but it's more of this is all a part of the process to me getting me where I need to be. And you do that really well, Olivia. Do you want to talk about it at all?
Yeah, tell us a little bit.
I don't know.
Well, she doesn't always remember everything. Can I tell a story? I know I talk about it too much, but
yeah.
Jenna,
Yeah, that's good because you remember the stories. Because sometimes I feel like also when you're in it, you kind of forget the story or you forget how it went down because we do tend to block some of those things out, right?
Yes, and she was at nationals her sophomore year, and back then, freshmen and sophomores were getting recruited. Like all of her teammates were being recruited, and she was feeling like she wasn't where she needed to be. And nationals is a big meet where all the coaches around the country for college are watching the girls.
Okay.
And so she was last on beam and nailed it. It was the last event Sunday night, like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And I was really nervous, and I don't get too nervous, but I knew it was a big deal. I knew if she fell off the beam, she may not get an offer for a scholarship. I knew if she stayed on, she'd have some good potential to get an offer. So she stayed on. The next day we go to Ball State. We go do the tour, and the head coach FaceTimes Olivia and gives her an offer. And we get in the car, and I'm bawling. I'm like, oh my gosh. And she is like, Mom, why are you crying? And I'm like, you just got an offer. She goes, didn't you know I was going to get an offer? I was like, well, I didn't know it was going to happen today.
But look at the mindset. Look at the mindset. She knew. She knew.
And she said to me, Mom, when I got on that beam last night and I knew my teammates were cheering for me, I knew I had it. And after I nailed my series, I knew that when I was going to stick my dismount that I was going to get an offer.
Well, I had hoped that I would, but
I bet
I
you
wasn't
knew.
sure.
I
In
bet
that
you
moment,
knew.
I was like, goal beyond the goal really does work, because that was our goal beyond the goal.
I think I use goal beyond the goal as like, what am I going to do after the meet? I'm going to go to dinner or go get ice cream later. So I'm not like stuck in the moment and worried
Pressure.
about that and only that. Or what
So
am I
it's
going to
like
do
you're looking for the
tomorrow?
reward afterwards, right?
Yeah, just gives me something to look forward to, so I know
Mm.
like my whole life isn't this meet or this beam routine. Like I have things to do after this, and it
Right.
like takes my mind off that exact routine or that meet.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
And
a
it's
great way
probably
to
helpful
use
for you too, because you still kind of want to be a kid, right? So it's like you kind of feel like, because I'm sure that I mean I'm surmising. I'm sure at some point you feel like you're different than other kids, right? Because
yeah.
you're doing
I
so
am.
many other. You're different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you've got that little extra drive, right?
Mhm.
That little extra drive. And I do believe that Anna found some videos of you.
Okay.
So I want her to show them and see a little bit of what Olivia does.
Okay.
Come on, Liv! Come on, Liv, you got it, babe! Come on, Liv! Hey! Come on, Livy! Hey! So good, Liv! Good! Good, Liv!
that is unbelievable. I'm sitting there, I was like trying not to yell.
I know. I'm like, I hope you don't fall on this one.
Oh my God, that is amazing. Like, think about the mental strength. First of all, that last one, I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
Just
bars
that
is
went over the flipping
scary.
over the bar, like the amount of times that's crazy. It's just like, I can't even believe your body can do that.
Me either.
You can't still to this day?
Oh, I don't know how I do it. I don't know. I watch that and I'm like, wait, I do that every day. And I don't know how.
You don't know how.
Mm.
That blows my mind that your body just does it. It's like, but do you feel like, because now, like, I'm thinking about it, just watching that, do you feel like you are controlling your body with your mind?
Yeah. I think it took a while to get to that point of knowing, like, my body already knows what it's doing, but I've done the same skills for like 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's honestly all my mind. Like, I know my body's gonna do it, even if it doesn't feel like it will. It's just like it takes my mind to believe that my body will be connected to it and to be able to do it.
It's
like a knowingness, right?
Gymnasts have what I call a learning strategy, and when I teach it, it's more of a, do you like to feel your way through your skills, see your way through them, talk your way through them, think your way through them, or some kind of combination? Like for beam, do you like to feel your way through, see your way through, talk your way through, think your way through, or a combination?
I usually talk my way through and feel my way through.
And do you see how that gives your mind a job to support your body?
Yes.
And that's, if we don't give our mind a job to do, it'll get in our way. I don't want to fall off the beam. I don't want to make a mistake. You know, what music are they playing? What are my coaches thinking? What if I don't make the lineup? And so by knowing what job and what strategy works for them, they can practice it that way. And then in any situation, they know what to think about so that their mind doesn't get in their way, or they're not distracted by all the other things going on, or the pressure and things like that.
So what would you say, like, you're talking yourself through it? Like, are you telling yourself what to do? I guess that's because I've never been an athlete, so I don't.
Yeah. So I have beam, for example, I have cues. I like have to tell myself to bend my legs and then straighten them on a certain skill. Like bring my arms back. So I'm like telling myself before I go these things and then like feeling it as I go.
So
just
you're
basically
cueing.
saying cues and like gymnastics language, like throw my arms down and like kick my leg up before I do it, and then I feel my way through it.
Which is her strategy. Everybody has a different strategy, and that's what's important, is for them to understand what they need to do to connect their mind to their body. And that's with every athlete, not just gymnastics, but it's crucial for gymnasts and any athlete that wants to be able to maximize their potential and do their best in any situation. That's what gives their mind the ability to be in the moment and control their body in the moment. And that's all we have control over is the moment.
Yeah.
That's why it's so successful.
I love that. That is so, but I love the fact that you have strategies like where people know what their strength is, so they could tell themselves what strategy they know is going to work for them, right? So it's like I was talking about before, it's like a knowingness. Like, it's knowing that when you use these techniques, you know you're going to stick it or you're going to land it because your mind is telling yourself that, because that's how powerful our minds are, right?
Yeah, for me, a lot of the time I tell myself what I have to do. Like, I used to get lost in twisting, so I would do a 1.5 instead of a full, and I learned that if I just told myself what to do instead of telling myself what not to do, that helped me, and I haven't had any issues with that.
Yeah. And that's like that's like stepping out a little bit and talking, like, which is gymnasts will use that a lot as well. They'll kind of talk to themselves through it instead of thinking sometimes can be like almost a positive and negative conversation. So that may not be helpful. Or if they talk through it, that can also be a way for them to be in control of their body.
Would you say, because I know for myself, I don't know if it's as I'm getting older, like sometimes the talking has to actually be out loud.
Yeah.
Like, are you talking to yourself out loud? Because I know for myself, it makes more sense when I speak it out loud, like literally say the words. Then I tell some of my friends sometimes, I'm like, I catch myself even talking to myself. Like if I go into a public bathroom or something, like they're gonna have me committed by myself. Like if I'm deep in a thought, and then I'm like walking, and then I start saying it out loud because it makes more sense.
100%.
I personally say mine in my head, but mine is kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I will if I need to, or sometimes our coaches tell us to say it out loud.
Okay.
I know a lot of my teammates do say their cues out loud, or they have to have someone tell them their own cues. Like they'll say, tell me to do this.
Oh, so they have someone
So
speaking.
a lot
it
of my
to them.
teammates do it that way because they can't tell themselves. If someone else tells them to do it, then they will.
So it's like they need to hear the other person say it, and that's what registers for them?
That's very common, I think, especially
Fascinating.
with my teammates. I've noticed a lot.
And all that matters is what works for them.
Exactly.
That's what's valuable. And knowing they have options, knowing they have a way to tweak it and to work with it. And it's kind of like people will say to me all the time, athletes need to be visual. But what can happen if the athlete is not a visual learner, if you tell them to be visual, like I asked a gymnast one time, I knew she wasn't visual, and her mom says, I always tell her to visualize her routines when we're going to a meet. And I said to the athlete, I said, what happens when she says that? And she goes, I just see a black hole. And so, but then understanding for her what works for her. So if people do say visual, she can feel her way through her routine or talk her way through it or see her way through it. And so she knew what was working for her. So when people say things like that, she'll know what strategy to use instead of having to do something that really isn't helpful for that particular athlete.
Yeah. So when someone so let's say her mom was telling her to visualize it and it didn't work for her, right? Does she then tell the mom, well, this strategy works for me better? Or obviously I'm sure you teach them that, right? Like, do you teach them how to speak out loud to the person that might be in their A circle that they feel is like in their circle of influence? Do you teach them how to communicate what they need to get the job done?
Well, that's a great question. And I do tend to tell moms, I do kick moms out of the athlete's A circle all the time.
Okay.
But they're not trying to be in there in a negative way. So they're more than happy to learn about what to do and what not to do. But more importantly, the athlete once they know A circle, they can practice it. They can kick their mom out. It's not that the mom is not trying to help, but if it's not helpful for the athlete, then the athlete doesn't have to have them in their A circle. And so just same with the coach. If the coach is giving the same correction 50 times and it's not working, the athlete can kick that out and focus on what they need to do the skill. Because at the end of the day, the coach just wants the athlete to be able to do the skill. And so does the athlete. But teaching the athlete how to manage themselves and teaching them what strategy works for them gives them a way to practice it, even if the coach may not be saying something that's helpful.
So you're teaching them to basically empower themselves to kick people out of their A circle that's not going to be helpful to them.
Yes. Yeah. And again, it's not about like kicking my coach out and being disrespectful.
Right.
It's about, okay, what they're saying, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to make that correction. So I can kick that coach out and then focus on how I need to think about how I want to do this skill so that I can do what my coaches are asking of me. It just empowers them to have a different option.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love this. Do you believe the time is already up? Like that went so fast. I'm like, this is
I
crazy.
think we knew that was going to happen, Jen.
We do. Well, we talked for over an hour. We talked for the whole last week.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh my God, you're my new best friend already. Awesome. I love
Absolutely.
this. And it's fascinating what you do. So Stacey, can you and Olivia, can you tell us how to get in touch with you? Like, you know, give us
Well,
some
I
info.
have a group on Facebook called Athletes Who Settle for More.
Mhm.
And that's really where I do a lot of live things. People are posting all kinds of stuff about my work with their experience.
Mhm.
There's 13,700 people on the group
Mhm.
that it's all about mental strength. I have a website, so-connected.com. People can connect with me. And then I wrote my children's book for Olivia.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. We didn't even get to talk about that. Yes.
Yeah. So that my children's book is, you can buy it through my website, but it's really Olivia's story. The character, her name is Liv, and I'm really proud of it. It's the first session that I do. It's the Doing Strategy, Learning Strategy A Circle. It's
Awesome.
great for young gymnasts.
I love it. Thank
great.
you. That's great. Would you do us a favor after? Would you screenshot that and maybe put it in one of the comments in the show when it pops up?
Sure.
That'd be good. Then people could see that. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Olivia. Thank you. I know you probably didn't really want to be here, but
No, it was good. It was good. It was fun.
No,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Thank you for
Thank you,
thank you
Janet,
for trusting
for
me.
having us.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
spending time with us. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you, guys. I found that so fascinating. Oh my gosh, I'm having better guests every week. It's just getting great. I love having different people on. I love learning the different strategies, and because even that mental for the athletes can also show up in any kind of coaching. So you can use those strategies for yourself if you're not an athlete or you're not going to be an athlete. You can use the A circle, B circle, C circle to understand how, to empower yourself in your own life. So thank you so much. This is Janet DeBenedetto, Ignite Your Life. And I appreciate you guys being here and have a great night. Thank you.